Alright, how to write a trading bot in Sierra chart. Base structure. Build your own trading algo, get rich via passive income. Sounds all tempting, and it's not unrealistic, but when you look for references or tutorials for projects like this, you'll find some snippets here and there, and after becoming an expert on flowcharts and code samples, you'll still have no idea where to start. At least that's how I felt at that stage, and so the series is trying to simplify things and get you started step by step to a level from where you can unfold your trading bot ideas in Sierra chart on your own. If you're interested in this series, please subscribe to this channel so I know to continue it. Trading!
Trading's dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Dangerous.
It's dangerous stuff.
Let's do it.
Don't do it. The easiest way to automate your trading is to build it as a study or indicator using Sierra Chart C++ based ACSIL, Advanced Custom Study Interface Language. You can to a certain degree use alerts or even do it via spreadsheets, but using ACSIL is much more versatile and faster in performance. And there's barely anything you cannot do. Whether or not you have experience with C++, chances are you are new to ACSIL, and the biggest obstacle usually is on how to start. So let's have a look at a study and the required ACSIL structure so we understand the base to start coding our own trading bot. When you add a study and hit settings, you have a few tabs. The first one shows user inputs or input variables, which, you guessed it, gives the user the ability to make changes to your study or trading bot for that matter. The next tab contains so-called subgraphs that can contain and display data. The actual functional part of the study or bot is not visible. Now let's have a look at the ACSIL code. You can have multiple studies or trading bots in one DLL and export them later as some kind of study collection. At the head of that you include any header files. Header files are to reference or outsource functions so you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you need often used calculations. For example, if you want the value of an EMA for a trading bot, you probably don't want to calculate the whole EMA study from scratch each time. So Sierra chart declares most common studies in header files that then get included at the head of the file that holds the detailed calculation as well as the head of every file you want to use it in. For now we don't need to outsource any functions that we write ourselves, so we're only going to include the Sierra chart.h. We also want to use standard namespaces for now. Then we give the DLL, which is our study collection, a name. Here, before we add any study exports, we would also define any global variables if we needed any, but we don't for now. So let's add the first study to be exported with this line. And let's call it my bot structure. But the actual name for the study that appears in Sierra chart is going to be defined later in set defaults. The study has mainly two sections that get called separately. The set defaults part gets called once and the actual function part then repeatedly. Let's start filling the structure with something simple. How about a study that prints the closing price of a candle in a message window? And as input variable, I don't know, let's give it the option to show the message or not, maybe. So let's start with defining that input variable. I usually start them with I for input, but you can name them whatever you like. And then you give your input an index starting at 0. The index determines the order they show up in the study settings. If we would need a subgraph, we would also declare that here and give it an index for the order. But we don't need that for now. Now comes the default section, where we start the displayed name and description of the study. The graph region we set to 0, even though I believe that's redundant because it should default to 0 if I don't write anything. Now remember, we declared the input, and now we have to set the defaults for it. As name, we wanted to display the question if we want to print the close price or not. And because we want to expect a Boolean result, meaning yes or no, or true or false, we set it to such and choose no as default. That should suffice for defaults. Let's get to the main function part of the story. What do we need? We want the close of a candle, which we can use a Sierra function called sc.close for. So let's feed that into a variable so that we don't have to keep using the function in the upcoming code. This is good practice because your bot might get pages long eventually, and if you keep using functions, you increase memory allocation and eventually performance suffers or you get stack overflows, etc. So if you use a function often or expect to, try to feed it into a variable and use that one instead. Closing price is a bit long, but I like to keep things clear and you can always mass replace with shorter terms later. We're going to declare the variable as float because we expect a price with decimals. And the scClose function wants an index to know what candle we are requesting. Again, to make it a habit, let's feed the function for the index into a variable and use that one instead. That one we declare as an integer, because we expect whole numbers. We also need to declare a string object for the text message. Okay, I think that's it, so let's put it in a condition. This might look incomplete, but the beauty with Boolean conditions is that you can actually shorten them to just the input if you expect true or yes, and with an exclamation mark in front if you expect no or false. Now we can put the message command in. In the first section in quotation marks, you write the string of what you want to read, if you want to read anything. And then wherever the first percentage is found is where the value will be planted, and the f after it defines it as float. Then we put in the variable that should be displayed at that percentage f. And finally we call the function to add that whole thing to the message window. And this should already work and do something. I prefer to do this all in Visual Studio because it gives me better color coding of what's a variable and suggests functions that it finds in the header files and other cool stuff. But for simplicity of this tutorial, I do this in Notepad++ and we're going to use the remote compiler that Sierra Chart offers. Analysis, build, select your CPP and choose remote build. Success, great, let's try it out. 15-second candle should be good to get sufficient updates. Add custom study, there's our collection. And in it our study. Add, apply, nothing happens. As it should, because we still have to set it to yes. There we go. But we wanted it to only show the close price when a candle closes, so let's add that. For that we're going to use another built-in function called scGetBarCloseStatus, and there's more than one way to do this. Either we add another if condition within the yes-no switch, or we add it to the other condition. Let's compile. And there we go. We should get an update every 15 seconds on every candle close. The first print is off, I think, because it uses the last close it has memorized until the first bar closes, which we could exclude, but that's good enough for now. And by the way, we just compiled over the running DLL and it started working, but that is only the case if you make changes in the functional part. If you mess with any inputs or most of the defaults, then it doesn't get these changes unless you reload or you just remove and add the study again. And I think this is a good place for the very first start of how to code your own trading bot, or so far rather how to code your own study. If you found this helpful and would like to see this series continue, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. Suggestions for strategies for this bot are welcome. We can make this trading bot trade the way you guys want. Also, if you're interested in trading funded accounts with Apex, I make short videos usually only for 80 or 90% discounts, but whatever the best current discount is, you can get it with the link in the description. Trade safe and always manage your risk.